to the OverChurched podcast for people who love Christ but struggle with Christians. I am Delicia, and we are so excited. And then I have a guest, good-looking Sam's Club guest.
Hey,
this model over here. Look at him.
Just trying to do my part. Shout out our future sponsor. I'm naming it and claiming it in Jesus' name.
If you watch the last episode, you'll hear the whole thing.
Sponsor of the OverChurched podcast, Sam's Club. This is their gray color scheme, by the way. A little snug but flexible at the same time.
Okay. You don't gotta sell us on it. You look good.
I'm just saying. I want more men to be able to experience what it feels like.
Your
put on
passion.
the Sam's Club.
Yeah.
Sam's Club hoodie.
Yeah.
I've never cheated on Costco before. This is like, I don't know how to vouch for Sam's Club on their food.
I took you to Sam's Club and this is what happened.
You know, it's crazy. I've been to Sam's Club more without you now because now I just go.
You go there like it's like in the grocery store.
Sometimes you gotta make sure the sizes, see what new
basis.
colors are dropping. You just never know. Anyway,
he like wants to go to Sam's Club, guys.
This is my spot, man.
Well, what are we talking about today?
They don't give samples though, so shout out Costco for that. But anyway, today,
yes,
we're talking about the thing. Part of the reason we even started a church, one of the demographics that caused us to even start a church.
What is that?
We started Legacy Church to reach the unchurched, the de-churched, and the
OverChurched.
And
what is the common word that OverChurched people use?
I was just burnt out. Mm-hmm. I was so burnt out. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk about.
I didn't even know what that word meant for like the longest until we started becoming full-time youth pastors.
Really,
like,
burnout?
Yeah, I was like, what is that?
Because you don't, in most other society, or not societies, but most other segments of society, burnout isn't an option.
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, you got to feed your family. Well, I'm burnt out of my job. Hey, them bills still coming.
Yeah, like I heard tired.
Mm-hmm.
I heard maybe overwhelmed a lot. But then
I want to change the scenery.
Yeah, something
but
like
burnout,
that.
I wonder if that's a Christianese, the new Christianese word.
It has to be because I
don't really hear people talk about that.
Like I'm trying to think like in
sometimes
all this,
in sports,
the secular jobs. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
sometimes
that's
in
true.
Sports.
But
I mean, I'm not doubting that people in other secular jobs don't get burnt out. I'm just saying, like, I didn't hear it a lot until Christians started claiming it.
Well, why is it that we like? Okay, so for me, I felt like, wow, we really want to go here. We really want to dive into this place of burnout because we've only been open for a year. We just celebrated our 1 year at Legacy, so that's been amazing to see. But we talked about in our earlier episodes of just like the long on-ramp we've had to have with people, which has been a beautiful thing. It's been, some need that, some don't. But this year you started off actually talking to the congregation about if you've been here a year and you still are not involved in any way, like it's time. Like it's basically time to be able to start healing and going back to actually taking action in that way. So one of the things that I was hesitant on talking about was because like everybody wants like a formula when it comes to this whole burnout thing. But I feel like it's just a personal responsibility that you have to have. So what is one of the things that you want to talk about when you hear this word burnout? What comes to mind?
Well, I think the first question is burnt out from what and then why? So like what are you burnt out from?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Are you burnt out to the fact that maybe you just don't know how to say yes and no to certain things or how to manage your time? I feel like I got the privilege of being able to help out with a ministry college, and that was one of the most frustrating things and most rewarding all at the same time because I got to be with young adults. Some were older than me, and being a part of this ministry schooling and being able, it was called like leadership. It was all about leadership. And the biggest thing I always came across was that people didn't know how to make to manage their time. It was always, I would get the younger guy that would be like, oh, I was up till like 2 a.m. Like, and then we had to be here at
playing
like,
Fortnite.
like, and then I had to be here at 6, but truthfully, and he was like, no, but it would be like, I would work on a project till 2 a.m. And he was like, why? Why were you working on that project at 2 a.m? Why didn't you do that?
You know about it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Like, why didn't you do that between the other time that you had? Like, did you say yes to certain things that you probably should have said no to? And when you would ask these questions, then all of a sudden, like, you could see like they were spiraling because it was like nobody really has challenged them or asked them those questions. It was just always like, oh, poor me, like all this stuff. But it was like, no, you just don't know how to manage your time. What are you doing with your time? And so I think a lot of this burnout of what we're talking about, like what you have to identify that and be honest with yourself when it comes to that. Like not trying to shift the blame, but what have you allowed to be able to create this burnout that you so-called use? Because I've been serving since I was 15 years old. I could truthfully say in every bone in my body, like that there has never been a time that I've been like, I'm just burnt out. I wasn't a pastor before. I didn't even get paid before. This wasn't a career. 15 years old, I've been doing this. And like, I'm so passionate about this right now because I'm getting to talk about purpose tomorrow for Legacy. But
shout out LegacyChurchAZ.com, our other sponsor. And you can find all the sermons on YouTube at Legacy Church Chandler AZ. Continue.
Right. But I feel so deeply, and I would say this to the interns, I would say this to the students that I got to the privilege of working with, of you will truly not feel that burnout if you are doing everything that God has called you to. If you feel that, like, if you know how to say yes, if you know how to say no, if you know how to manage your time and you know how to follow his steps for your life, then you will not be burnt out. You won't. You will feel tired at times. You will feel overwhelmed at times. You will feel maybe the heaviness of life at times. Those are all things that are normal because he's called us to suffer too with us, right? With him. And so all that to say is that I have never regretted that in my life. Like, as much hurt as I've been through, whoever's listening, like, please emails, comment, whatever. You think you've been overchurched. Like, I got all the reason to be overchurched. And so my thing is that, but serving his house and serving his bride has never gone void in my life. Like, it's always been rewarding. It's taught me who I am. It's grown me to be who I am. And I've started off in ushering to kids ministry to things that, like, parking lot. I've done parking lot. I've done, you name it. I've done it. Like slides. I've done it all. Like, and whatever they needed, I was willing to do. And I was just like, because I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for God. And I was like, he's giving me hands. He's giving me feet. He's giving me a mind. I'm going to do what I have to be able to glorify and to give him all the honor. So there's this part of me that is just like, I want to help people in this way of like, get that out of your vocabulary. Like, Christians, OverChurched, get that out of your vocabulary right now. But you have a different perspective on like how that looks for you and how you were geared up in that way.
No, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I just think that in addition to that, it's crazy because I think burnout culture it may be, I'm trying to think, because I know we sometimes once you start focusing on one thing, it seems like it's the biggest thing, you know, the biggest issue.
Yeah.
But I feel confident in saying I think burnout cultures is one of the biggest traps from the enemy in distracting and discouraging saints from living out the purpose that God has for them. Because, and I think it could really be a huge, like, if we don't, as a culture, as the church, as the body of Christ, if we don't get this right, if we don't renew our minds, if we don't really view this as a threat to our walk with Jesus and to our mission and our purpose of what does Jesus say? Go out into all the world and preach the gospel, make disciples. And I think, man, burnout culture could be the demise of the Western church, because what it does is it gets people more focused on them than him.
Yeah.
Burnout culture, the mindset of like, I'm just so burnt out. I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out. I think that in its essence, you know, on the surface, you're kind of like, okay, then what do we need to do to correct that? Right.
Yeah.
But what I have found is that really people that have adopted that mindset, there is no correcting it, because no matter, they're always going to find ways to pull back even more because they're so overprotective of saving themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And so what I think that does is it then is the opposite of what Jesus calls us to do. This is I was thinking about what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 16. I'm going to start at verse 21 because it really sets the stage of everything. So from then on, so Jesus has been talking to his disciples. He's talking to his disciples. Mm-hmm. From then on, Jesus began to tell his disciples plainly that it was necessary for him to go to Jerusalem and that he would suffer many terrible things at the hands of the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of religious law. It's kind of funny because this essentially was the church. Mm-hmm. This was the church of that day. The elders are going to hurt me. The priests, they're going to hurt me. The teachers of religious law, they're going to hurt me.
Yeah, that's good.
He would be killed. They're going to kill me. But on the third day, that's for your Pentecostal. On the third day, he would be raised from the dead. But verse 22. But Peter took him aside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Heaven forbid, Lord, he said, this will never happen to you. I'll never let you get burnt out by these. I'll never let these people, you know what I'm saying? That's essentially, he's like, I got to protect Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus turned to Peter and said, get away from me, Satan. You are a dangerous trap to me. You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's. And that's what I was trying to say. I think burnout is a dangerous trap.
Yeah.
I think that it is a reality. I think absolutely, especially with how we've been conditioned, and like, you can't control that. You know what I mean? People that were born in this generation, they view things differently than people that were born, you know what I mean? What's hard for us, you know, older generations be like, you guys are soft.
Yeah.
And there is a truth. Like, we are a lot softer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, well, this is all we know, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so Jesus says, you are a dangerous trap to me. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. And that's what I think is the tension of burnout culture, is that it's really comes down to us trying to save our own lives. I got to have more boundaries.
Wow.
I got to protect myself. I got to protect my time. I got to protect my peace. It's really you trying to save your life, which is the opposite of what Jesus tells us to do. He says, give up your life. And if you give it up for my sake.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you abandon your family so that you can be that's not what I'm saying.
No, you're not saying that, because like going back, let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Yeah.
Because God's giving you the ability to have self-discipline. Mm-hmm. He's called us to be disciplined in all things. So count the cost.
Yeah.
He said these things. He's warned us. He's given us these precautions. But we've taken it so far as these boundaries that we've fenced us
God
off.
already created boundaries technically with the creation. He said, work 6 days and have a Sabbath. So a lot of us are burned out because we don't Sabbath.
Nope.
So really, you don't have to protect yourself. You just have to, if you fully surrender to God's will, you'd be protected, because he's already designed it to protect you.
Wow.
So like, if you have a Sabbath, But we don't want Sabbaths because we need to make more money.
Yeah.
No days off.
We don't Sabbath because, I don't need it. Yeah. I don't need it.
That's the law.
Yeah. But so if you're going to follow Jesus to knowing when to go to church and when to do work and to do things for his glory, but also he's asked you to rest. Mm-hmm. When is that rest? So what does that look like?
You can't afford to rest because you're trying to keep up a lifestyle that is killing you. Maybe your lifestyle is killing you, not following God.
Wow.
Maybe all the things you're trying to keep on.
Why do people, the first thing they want to eliminate
is church?
Is church.
Yeah. The thing that gives you life, the thing that surrounds you with the community, the thing that allows you to prioritize being in the presence of God.
That doesn't make any sense.
It does make sense because I got to save my life. Whew. So I'm more focused on saving my life than giving my life to Jesus, giving up my life for Jesus. And so then I sabotage my own life because I'm trying to save my own life. So then I've cut off church, but then I can't figure out why my kids are doing this. I can't figure out why my marriage is disparate. I can't figure out why all these are things because the way I'm trying to save my life isn't working because I don't fully trust that Jesus will save my life. I don't trust that I can give up my life and it'll somehow in a supernatural way actually save it.
Yeah.
So I'll cut off Jesus, but I'll make sure I still get to, my kids are at every sports practice, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't cut off.
I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna go to work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show up at work every single day because I need that paycheck.
I'm gonna still be at all my fitness classes. Well, prayerfully.
Gonna be at all my ladies' nights, my men's night, my fantasy football. I'm gonna make sure. I
got my girls trip, my guys trip planned. I can't cut that off.
Nope. Of course not. Because that's for me.
That's for me.
But I'm serving the house of the Lord, it's not.
Yeah. I stay up. Like, think about if you just think about the exchange. If you were to exchange, I think one time my therapist made me go on my screen time.
Yeah.
And see what was taking up my time. And I was spending X amount of hours looking at a screen that I didn't need.
Wow.
None of the things I need, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in my mind, I needed it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so making that exchange actually frees up more time to do the things that are more important. But that goes for every area of our life.
Yeah.
If we were to really evaluate what is really taking our time, like most people, even if you go to church all the time, you're probably there 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
Let's say like our podcast team, they're super Christians.
Yeah. They're here on a Saturday.
They're on a Saturday, right?
Right.
So let's say they're putting in, I don't know, I'm just saying hypothetically 8 hours.
Yeah. 8 hours. Sometimes more. Sanchez is editing.
But I'm saying roughly, let's say it was 8 hours in the week.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that almost be like a tithe? Wouldn't that just be the first 10%?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that just be, you know what I'm saying? Like why would we cut off the tithe? Why would we cut off the 10%? Let's say you really gave God 10% of your time.
Right.
So you're going to cut off the 10% instead of reevaluating the 90. And that's what we do.
Oh my gosh.
But again,
that's so good.
I think what Jesus is saying, and I'll say this, burnout culture is dangerous because it's a trap for pastors, because when we started the church, we're cognizant that we're reaching unchurched, dechurched, and overchurched.
Yeah.
So when we first started the church, I made a mistake. Yeah. I look back now, it was a mistake. I thought maybe I need to lower the standard for people so that they'd be more open to allowing God to move. And I did our church a disservice. I was like, hey, maybe just give God one day a month, just one day a month. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I just want to give people a low on ramp, Yep. But I think there's a difference between a low on ramp compared to a long on ramp.
Right.
A long on ramp is like, hey, wherever you're at, let's just start there.
Right.
But the goal is still to surrender your life to him, this is discipleship.
Yeah.
So this is the problem. If we're not careful as pastors, we will create a church of attendees.
Right. To have butts in the seats.
And we won't create a church of disciples. And Jesus does not ask for attendees. He asks for disciples. So when he's talking to his disciples, it's different when he's talking to a crowd.
Right.
The crowd, he's like, come and see.
Yeah.
The disciples, he's like, come and die.
Yes.
But I was scared as a pastor to start off with, come and die.
Right.
Because I had that fear of that. I don't want people to be burnt out.
It's that people pleasing.
Yeah, it was.
It's that people pleasing. And then another distraction,
Yeah.
another way of figuring out that the fact that there is, man, like, that's so good. That's just so good. Like, I think that the devil is such a schemer in this. And I just want people to hear this who have been OverChurched, is like, I don't like, you're trying, like, you're like, Delicia, you don't know what they had me do, or you don't know, they were always asking me and like, blame.
Yeah.
But that is just a lie from the enemy, because you had no self-control.
Yeah.
You had no discipline in your life. You were not walking in the authority that Jesus already called you and gave you dominion of your life.
Yeah.
Like, walking that out is saying that is what I can do. That is what I can't. This is what and not in the sense that I'm saying, because I got the other ones that, man, they know how to say no to everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I need to know that you're asking God about what you are capable of doing.
Yeah.
You're not just, nope, I can't.
Yeah.
I know how to say no. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, not that. It's the fact that you're willing to surrender. You're willing, serving, being a part of his church, being a part of the mission that God has called you to. Like, it's about surrender, dying to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the bigger key.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
nobody wants to die.
Nobody wants to die
anymore. I don't think, well, I shouldn't even say anymore. No one wants to die ever. Peter was walking with Jesus and was like, hey, you ain't dying. We ain't dying. Like, they're not killing you.
No. And I get that. Like, we've been there. Like, that's not maybe sometimes the forefront of our mind. A lot of the time when me and you do things, we're like, okay, yeah, it might hurt later, but like, we're just going to go and we're going to see. And I know that's not how everybody thinks a lot of the time. Like, we worry about the dying later. Yeah. Like, we're like, like, we're going to say yes.
Yeah.
Because we know our yes, God has been there for us and been faithful through it all. Like, he just needs our yes.
Yeah.
And he's going to work it all out for our good, and knowing that, and for his good, right?
For his good and his glory. And what we're not doing, we're not championing abusive church cultures. Like, we've talked to people that we're like, no, bro, you're at church too much.
Yeah.
But I want to separate this. This isn't about church.
No.
This isn't just about church.
No.
Because honestly, people that have really given their lives to Jesus, they don't wait for it. It doesn't manifest on Sundays.
No.
Like, if I've really given up of my life for the sake of the cross, that means there are so many things in my life that I'm saying yes to die to. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that really what you see on Sunday is just a reflection of who I am Monday through Saturday.
Man.
And I think what I'm more of a champion for is, like, in every area of my life.
Right.
Am I, because I'm at church more than most people, but there's still areas of my life where I don't want to die to.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? That would, like, I can claim the burnout card, not just of, being at church, but we talked about the last episode. I'm like, I think that's something I said to my grandma. I'm like, hey, like, once I've preached all day on Sunday, like, I'm not doing some kumbaya Bible study with everybody on Monday. Like, I want to breathe,
Yeah.
But a part of that was me trying to save myself.
Yeah.
That was me trying to protect myself, because when in actuality is like, what is an hour of, because I spent all that time preaching on Sunday. My kids didn't.
Right.
They still need to see it modeled in home.
Right.
So for me to say, well, I did enough on Sunday, I can get off the cross on Monday and live for myself on Monday. That's a sin. That's an area you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I just think that whole concept of this is too much is detrimental for anybody in any stage of their faith journey.
I like what you said. It's not a church problem. It's basically a you problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a you problem, not wanting to die to yourself. What that really looks like. Like, let's stop making it seem like, I think, like, there's people that are really coming into church that expect it to feel good all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of over that. Like,
you're over.
I'm over
building church.
No, I'm
Is that
over
the next podcast? Over over feeling good church or feel good church?
I'm just saying like I'm over the feelings, like of the fact that like as soon as it doesn't feel exciting, doesn't feel new, like we had a bunch of people who were like on board at the beginning. Year later, now we're reflecting and we're like, dang, where's so-and-so? Where's so-and-so? Like, you know, and you think about these people or whatever, and you're like, man, what happened? Like they were so excited. And I think that that's what happens a lot of time is that people go off of their emotions of like, I want to be all in and I want to do all this.
I just didn't feel peace anymore. That's because you were starting to die. I don't know anybody that feels peaceful about dying. Especially the dying Jesus is talking about. Carry up your cross. That's excruciating.
That's not as, and you know what? And we're not saying that's how it is to follow Jesus. Like there is joyful moments. There is a lot of great moments. He's given us joy, but I'm like that the fact that some of us as human beings, we have just taken these emotions so far that it's like the moment it is just more of like daunting, or it's just not as exciting or as exhilarating as I felt from the beginning. Like then this just isn't God.
Yeah.
That this isn't God.
Or yeah, it's not God, or
this isn't where I'm supposed to be anymore.
And that's the word. This isn't I'm not. And I keep, man, it's almost scary to me how accurately this is over 2,000 years ago. And Jesus calls all the stuff we're experiencing, like he tells us to Peter, get away from me. And what's crazy?
Yeah.
Is Peter in his mind was trying to protect Jesus.
Yeah.
Peter was not, his motives weren't evil.
No. His
motives were not, I'm just over the God thing. No, he was not saying that. He was like, I got to protect Jesus because the way Jesus is going, like you're talking about, you're going to suffer and you're going to have to go through this and it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
He's like, no, this will never happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in his mind, he's protecting Jesus from God's will. And notice what Jesus says. He doesn't say this about anything. He says, get away from me, Satan. You are a dangerous trap to me. Jesus never anywhere else in scripture admits that this is a trap for himself. Because Jesus is saying the way you're talking, it makes sense and it appeals to my flesh nature because I was fully God, but I'm also fully man. And he's saying what you're describing is a trap to me because he had to pray against this at the Mount of Olives. He says, God, not my will be done, but take this cup away from me. But at the end of the day, not my will. He was like,
wow.
He was sweating blood because he was like, I'd rather much listen to Peter right now.
Wow.
Peter was making a lot of sense. Now that I'm facing the reality of my death, it's hours away. Like what Peter was talking about, I don't have to go through this and it'll never happen to me. That sounds a lot better than what I'm about to walk into. And so he says, you're a dangerous trap to me because he's acknowledging that what you're saying, I agree with.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
Yeah.
So you have to get away from me. Because if you don't get away from me, you'll infect me and I'll end up aborting the purpose, the mission that God sent me here for, because it was too hard and it was going to burn me out. And I'd rather just protect myself.
Woo. That's a whole, yeah.
And then he says, you are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's. I think burnout is a human point of view.
That's it.
That's what it is. Burnout is a human point of view.
Yeah.
Because Paul talks about, I've been shipwrecked, I've been destitute, I've been broke, I've been beat, I've been whipped. Nobody I know has been through any of those things.
Yeah.
And Paul never said I'm burnt out.
Wow.
I don't know anybody that's been to a tenth of what Paul's been through personally.
Right.
Maybe if you were in a foreign country and you actually suffered persecution, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like we'd have a totally different, but this podcast, the listeners here, they're mostly, drinking coffee right now and they're on their way to work. But do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Isn't that scary that?
And I just feel like as you are saying, as you're dying to your flesh, like as much as like we use these extravagant words of like you're suffering or like humans don't like that word. Our flesh doesn't like that word. It's like suffering. I don't got to suffer. But that is the mindset of our flesh, not of our spirit.
Yeah.
That's not what God's given us. Because if we are so consumed with our flesh, then there's no space to hear your spirit.
And when your flesh is suffering, your spirit is thriving.
Wow. That's so true. And this is what we're learning about being in 21 days of prayer and fasting is just people are experiencing things right now, miraculous things, but then also suffering in the ways right now.
But it's the closest they felt to God.
It's the closest. They have peace that surpasses all understanding. They have love that is just unconditional right now. They have forgiveness, Lord. Like, man, if you have been in a place that you have been OverChurched because you said I was burnt out, that's not of God. That's of your flesh, not of your spirit.
Well, can I argue with that a little bit? Let's say maybe they have. Let's say they were in an abusive, unhealthy church environment. Let's say they had poor leadership.
Yeah.
Let's say they were spiritually abused. Like I'm not even saying you haven't been shipwrecked emotionally, relationally. I'm not even negating people's experiences.
I don't think we are at all.
What I'm saying is I'm not even saying burnout has to be a negative word. I'm saying it's a negative mindset to stay in.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, let's say you have been burnt out.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you're not Jesus. You're not Paul. You have the potential, you know what I'm saying? But like, you just weren't there. You just went through at the state where you were mentally, emotionally, spiritually, at the maturity level. You were overwhelmed and you were just like, I just need a break.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say that's okay. Cause there were times where, I don't want to say Jesus burnt out, but there was times where he secluded himself, where he went away, where the disciples couldn't find him. Like there were those times when he wasn't just ministering to people 24/7.
Right.
So I do think there is a rhythm of rest. I do think there is a rhythm of, there's a season of my life where we can go. We're at everything. And then there's other times where my job is demanding something different.
Yeah.
Or my kids need, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't shift gears, but I do think you should always be moving and shifting. Like, I think the concept of I'm burnt out, so I need to take some years off, that's scary.
Months.
You know what I'm saying? I just think it's scary. I'm just thinking it's scary. Like what I basically said, our church is, some of you have been claiming this burnt out or OverChurched thing, and that's become your new identity. Yeah. You're more of you're claiming, and again, this sounds counter and productive or intuitive because we have a whole podcast dedicated to the OverChurched. So this is us saying we want to meet people where they are, but I don't ever want the OverChurched to become my identity, or I want a disciple to be my identity.
Yeah. 100%.
And a disciple is someone who chooses daily to die. And a disciple is someone who chooses daily to give up my life so that Jesus can save it. Mm-hmm. Because if I try to save my life, I'll lose it.
Right.
And if I try to hold on to, well, I'm just burnt out. And it's like, well, how long, that's now become an identity.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to, hey coach, I need a breather.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But okay, you gonna get back in the game?
Yeah.
Because there are still people that are suffering. We still have a mission. We still have to go make
yeah.
And so what scares me, especially when it comes to multi-generational context of like parents who've adapted, we were just, your kids weren't burnt out.
Yeah.
Your kids are 9.
Yeah.
You know, like,
no.
But now we talked about, we have a soft generation. Now that dangerous part is now you've kept, and this is what I say, I lowered the standard of like, hey, because you're burnt out, maybe you just do this much. And if I'm doing it, how much more like we as individuals doing it? Oh, well, let's just do, the standard just gets lower and lower and lower, and we're just dying less and less and less. And so I just think all of us need to get back to Matthew 16? Yeah. Where we're like, okay, wait a minute, get behind me. I'm not going to be stuck in this trap of burnout or self-preservation. It is a trap.
Yeah.
It's a reality, but the longer it can become a trap, and I need it to get behind me.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to challenge people is, at what point do you tell burnout to get behind you?
Yeah.
Because burnout is not of God. It is a humanistic point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we hope that this has been challenging for you guys all listening, but also just encouraging. I hope that it's been encouraging to know like that, you don't have to accept or identify being burnt out. Yeah. And God doesn't want that for you. Yeah. his will did not stop, or his purpose did not stop at your burnout. So
your purpose is bigger than your burnout.
Your purpose is, you're always great with words. He thinks like words off the top.
From my grandma I know. Found out my grandma does that.
That's crazy. But yeah, I want you guys to know that this comes from a place of, we have been doing this for quite some time now. And, I want to see a generation that doesn't blame and doesn't take on that identity, but instead wants to be led and die, to know what it looks like to die, and understanding that dying to our flesh and hearing and being more heightened and aware of our spirit is exactly where God wants us to be. It's what, and I think we've just gotten so accustomed to holding on to us, holding on to what's comfortable to us.
Holding on to us and not him.
Yeah. He has to work like this, not like this. So anyways, we pray that this is helpful for you all. Share it with somebody, comment below. If you want to know where he got this tracksuit, again, Sam's Club. But love you. And just remember to go love, live, and lead like Jesus.
Love you guys.